So good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to the second installment of a two-part series on education in Baltimore. We are excited to be here in the Eastern District. Those of you who are in the Eastern District or residents of the Eastern District, won't you put your hands together and give yourselves a round of applause. That's right. And Berea's in the house. That's right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Berea is in the house. The Berea community, a strong, active community in the Eastern District, certainly assets to the city of Baltimore. My name is Gus Augustus, and I will be serving as moderator for this evening. It is my honor and privilege to present to you the leader of this fine institution. His name is Dr. Donald Prestwood. Won't you welcome the principal of this fine school?
Good evening.
Good evening.
On behalf of our scholars, staff members, fabulous parents, Network 2, we'd like to welcome Madam Mayor and Dr. Thornton to fabulous Fort Worthington Elementary School. But more important, I want to thank the East Baltimore parents and community members for coming to this meeting. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prestwood. We have a presentation for you later on, so hopefully you're able to stay around. It is now my duty to present the fine, fabulous, and awesome mayor of the city of Baltimore, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings Blake. Won't you welcome Madam Mayor?
Thank you very much, Gus, and I want to thank my entire team for working so hard in partnership with Dr. Thornton's team to get the word out about this event. And I want to thank all of you on this beautiful evening for coming out and spending some time with us, and I know that we want to get right to the questions, so I'll be brief. I do want to acknowledge, well, first, thanks to our principal. Thank you for your hospitality and opening up your school. I'm very grateful when a principal takes very seriously his responsibility and I think opportunity to be a leader, not just in the school, but in the community. So thank you very much for that. And I also want to thank, we have Councilman Warren Branch who is here, and I want to yield the mic if you wanted to say anything. Did you want to say anything before I get started?
When we was in the room across the hall, I was reminding the mayor when she was appointed to this position as mayor, Fort Worthington was the very first school that she came to. She walked the halls, she sat in on the classroom, and she has been very inspirational in helping this school with the students with practically everything I know Dr. Prestwood have ever asked for. So I do want to acknowledge her over here in East Baltimore. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman. I also want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Delegate Nina Harper. Thank you very much. I also want to thank members of the Youth Commission. Wave your hand, Youth Commission members. Thank you very much for being here. So I'm honored to be here with so many of you, our school partners, our parents, our community partners, our advocates who are here in this work as we strive on this countdown to the first day of school, as we strive to make sure that we're ready and we're on the same page about what we want for our young people. So I thank you for coming out and being in conversation with Dr. Thornton and I. There's only one way that we're going to make sure that we get it right. And I think there's in a relationship, no matter what type of relationship it is, it's based on communication. If you want to have a successful relationship, if you think that you're going to guess what somebody wants or guess what somebody needs or guess what somebody's thinking, no matter what type of relationship it is, it's a setup. Right? Unless you have a conversation, unless you set a conversation when the goal is to respect and to listen and then to act, you are setting yourselves up for failure. So for me, this is about being in conversation about what we want for our kids. So we're on the same page and that we know that we can be partners and that we're on the same team to make sure that every child, no matter what zip code they are born in, has the opportunity to become the best that they can be, that there should be no obstacle put in their way by well-meaning people who are trying to do the best that they can, that we can for our kids. But those obstacles, we can't even see them if we're not discussing them. So I thank you for being here. We are building in East Baltimore. There's so many good things going on in this community, and I'm grateful as well for the advocacy and the help that so many of you lent to our efforts to bring more than $1.1 billion in construction and rehabilitation funds into Baltimore City. That's going to change the face of our communities for generations to come. So as we plan for that work, I think the renovations for Fort Worthington are scheduled to begin next fall, right? Next summer. Can't start soon enough for you. But you know, I think this is the right place to have this conversation, and certainly the right community. So again, I want to thank you. Again, this is about to be the first day of school, and I think there's no better time to talk about making sure that our young people are ready. I said we have 3 things that we say about the 25th. We want our kids to be ready, to be there, and to stay there. And it takes all of us to make sure that that happens. So with that, I want to bring up for his remarks before we go back to the table for questions, someone who I've had a tremendous amount of pleasure getting to know over these past few months, and I can tell you, if a relationship ends the way it starts or continues the way it starts, we are on our way to some great things in Baltimore. Thank you very much, Dr. Gregory Thornton.
To our wonderful mayor. You know, there will be times we may disagree, but we made a pact. We're going to stay together for the kids. Yeah, can you relate to that? All right. You got to be a little excited tonight. I mean, a lot's going to go on in this building. I want you to take a risk. I want you to close your eyes. It's okay. You got a bunch of officers here. You're fine. Close your eyes. Now, I want you to vision with me. Do you see the new classrooms? Do you see the new auditorium? Do you see who said no? Do you see the cafeteria? Do you see the transformation of our community? That's what's going to happen, folks. Open your eyes. We're going to claim. My mother used to say to me, you claim it even before you get it. And tonight we're claiming this new opportunity that's coming to this community. And I'd like to thank publicly, certainly our mayor for her leadership in this entire community for the work that they've done. We can do this. This is an opportunity to change the focus, to change the trajectory of our young people. We can do it together. You know, at the end of the day, certainly it's built on communication, but I also want you to know it's built on trust too. And I think when you put those 2 things together, you can get something very special going on. And I can't think of a group of young people that's more deserving than your sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters, aunts, uncles, nieces, the children's doctor that's come to your school every day. This is what this work is about. So thank you for joining us. It's a great turnout. Every time I come to one of these, I learn more. I learn more about the community, but I get some work. Everybody gives me about 10 things. I want you to take care of this. I want you to take care of that. But at the end of the day, you know what? I don't mind at all, because I think when we do those kinds of things, we certainly make a deposit into our community, and this is a community that's deserving of a big deposit, because I'm looking for a big return on this investment. Our kids will do great things. From here, off to high school, the mayor will say Western if you're a young lady, or any of our great high schools, but on the college, on the work, and they're going to come back and do great things in this community, because that's what we want. We don't want them to leave Baltimore. We want to come back home, roll up their sleeves, and do what folk like you're doing in this building now, making life better for them. They make it better for the next generation, and before you know it, we're a transformed city. So thank you. We're looking forward to your conversation, and I'm delighted. So when you close your eyes tonight, think of those. Remember, I want you to think, when you go to sleep, I want you to think of that new classroom, the new auditorium, the new cafeteria. What else is new, Nicole? What else we got new in that building? Cafeteria. I love cafeteria. Look at me. Recreation. I want you, recreation. We're going to see it all. We're going to claim it. Have a great evening. Look forward to your calls.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Thornton. We are now going into the Q&A portion of this forum. There are 2 gentlemen who are holding microphones. You do not have to sign up. I just ask, you do not have to sign up to ask a question, We just ask that you raise your hand because there may be someone behind you also who would like to ask a question. So we will try to work from one side of the room to the other. On my right, right in front of me actually, and behind you, your left, is Mr. Christian Song, who's holding a microphone. And on the other side of the room is Mr. Larry Nunley. So, would anyone like to, yes ma'am, in the white, you have a question? And I saw a hand go up on the right-hand side of the room.
That's good.
And before you ask your question, I'm asking that you give us your name, then give us your question, and that those of you who are thinking about your question, when you give your question, try to be as concise as possible because we are, we have limited time. Thank you.
You're welcome. My name is Yvette Moore, and I am a member of this community and also a member of the Berea Neighborhood Association. My question is, you just had asked us to close our eyes and envision a new school with the different rooms that you named.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us more specific information as to when that's going to take place and exactly where it's going to be built and what's going to happen to this and the school over on Lakewood and maybe anywhere else?
Thank you.
Is it okay with you? Okay.
Ms. Nicole Price.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Price. I'm a director of Family and Community Engagement for City Schools. The new building is going to be built not far from this actual location, so it will be a complete new building, not a renovation. It was originally slated to be renovated. After the feasibility study was completed, it was moved to an actual new building. The construction will start sometime in 2015, and the school is slated to open in school year 2017-2018.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Price. Yes, sir. By the way, I saw a hand up on the other side of the room earlier. Okay. Again, your name and your question.
Hello, my name is James Brown. I'm from the Berea community, a member of the Berea Eastside Community Association, a volunteer here at this school and through our rec center. I do know more about the construction of our new schools and the fortification of funds to build that. But what I do find is that in addition to those fundings, we have funded new structures, but we haven't funded not even new teachers, assistant teachers for our schools, such as an assistant principal, which is greatly needed, assistant TAs, expansion of the guidance systems and supplements for more teachers to be included into the school instead of a new structure. In addition to a new structure, you need more staff increase
Okay.
in the school.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown, let me take a shot at that. I think your point's well taken. The facility is great, but truly what happens inside the facility is more important. And you're right, the key is people, is having folks that care about your children, care about their community, and is willing to make an investment. We have a formula in which we distribute money. It's called Fair Student Funding. The challenge you have is that it's built around the size of the school. And because the school is relatively a small school, he doesn't, as principal, have the discretionary dollars to do some of the things I think that he would want to do. We're looking at a new formula. We're hopefully going to be able to launch that where we actually have what I would call a standard of care everywhere. Think of a hospital. No matter where you go, you're in intensive care, there's a standard of care you expect, critical care, and I believe there should be a standard in which every school should have. So we're working through that, and hopefully we'll be positioned as we come in and look at all those new classrooms. We'll have the support necessary for our kids to be successful. See, I believe our kids can be successful. Sometimes they just need a little extra help. And I'm of the belief that if we can facilitate that, our kids will actually do great things. We're seeing some good results in reading here. We're going to work on some math, right, sir? We're going to work on some math. So I know what it takes, but you're absolutely right. It's key people.
Thank you, sir. There is a hand that went up, gentleman in the gray shirt. And before you ask your question, I would like to, Madam Mayor, if it's okay, acknowledge Ms. Michelle Brown, who is here on behalf of Senator Barbara Mikulski.
I do want to thank Michelle for being here on behalf of the senator, who is a big supporter of Baltimore City's young people and the work that we're doing to improve our schools. And I thought that someone said that we saw Councilman Stokes. Where did he go?
Oh, he did come. Oh, okay, there.
Good. I was doing my best to pretend I didn't see you, but somebody came up. You know I'm joking with you. No. No, thank you for being here. You know, I know part of the area is Councilman Branch's district, and part of it is yours, and I appreciate you being out here, because it is partnership that we're gonna make it happen. So thank you very much. And I also want to thank, we have representatives here from Department of Recreation and Parks, as well as the Police Department, who's been a very big help to my administration. They were out there knocking on doors with me, so I want to thank them, as well as school police as well. I hope I didn't forget anybody. What was it? Are we answering? This young man over here, sorry.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Dr. Thornton. Again, welcome to Baltimore.
It's good to be here.
I'm a very strong advocate. My name is Edwin Johnson. I grew up in this area, East Baltimore, but now I live in North Baltimore. I'm a very strong advocate for African American males that we are losing in the school system. I would like to know, would you look at the idea of expanding another trade school in Baltimore City school system? Maryville is busting at the seams. It's the most popular school in the city. And I think that farther east side, particularly over where the old Hearn Run, would be a very great opportunity that we turn that into a first-class trade school, getting with the unions and having the unions to develop a journeyman program, an apprenticeship program, so our young men, because even if they go to college and stay one, that's not helping them to become employable. So I'm just suggesting that when we look at the opportunity to look at developing another trade school here in Baltimore City for particularly African American males, but those students who we say have to be career ready. We talk about college readiness, but we also have to be career readiness. Thank you.
Sir, you're absolutely right. We're losing our young African American men. Back in that other place, I can't remember where I used to work. They call it Milwaukee, but all my thoughts are on Baltimore right now. We created a campaign, I Will Not Die Young, because I was losing young men on the streets of Milwaukee, and we got to be certain to engage them. This is what I believe. When you engage, you're basically focused and you know where you're going. I'm there with career and technical education, but it has to lead somewhere. What I've said to the team is that unless young people graduate with a high school diploma that will allow them to negotiate to go to college, or a credential that they can walk on a job site and get a job, then I'm not supporting it. But if it leads somewhere, if the youngsters can come out ready, whether it's automobile mechanic, that they're ASC certified, whether they're Microsoft certified, whether there's industry pathways where they can get jobs, then I'm not supporting. But if you're going somewhere, then I think it's our job to facilitate that opportunity for them to grow. But we need some internships. See, I need young people in these internships during the summer. I need them doing the apprenticeships and things of that nature so they can feel it and touch it. And I believe once we get them engaged and excited about learning, and then they can make some money too, we can get there. The new facilities we're looking at is heavily focused around career and technical education, which has a pathway heavily focused on science, mathematics, and engineering. That's the new future. You know, when I went to school, and probably when you went to school, we had these shop classes. I'm not buying that one. I'm not there. I don't need to make any more wood shops or metal shops, because those things just are not pathways to get kids to, I think, high-paying jobs so they can take care of their families. I think we're saying the same thing.
I should have probably gone before Dr. Thornton, but I just wanted to add that as a part of the buildings work, we're not just looking at the facilities, we are looking at where we place academic programming. And Forest Park is one of the schools in year one. It's going through the feasibility study process now, but that school will become a CT expansion high school.
Good job. Good question.
Yes, ma'am. I see a hand up in the front here, and I see a hand over to, you mind yielding to the lady who raised her hand first? Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please, and we'll come to you with the microphone. We're going to give you the microphone, that way we can, well, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Pastor Beatrice Bastiani, also president of the Friendly Neighborhood Association of Berea. And my question is there specific curriculum changes or additional help that's going to be given to the students here at Fort Worthington Elementary who are struggling you know, we're seeing this disconnect between the 3rd and the 5th grade, where we start falling down in our reading abilities and in math abilities in this neighborhood in particular. So if we don't catch it right now in elementary school, how do we help these children catch up so that they can make it to high school? Are there going to be changes in the curriculum here?
Pastor, first, good evening. Thank you very much for being here. Probably could have been a lot of places, but you're here with us. Let me tell you a little bit. Let's talk about this school. The school's beginning to make really good progress. Dr. Presswood is part of a program, Success for All. It's a program that comes out of Johns Hopkins. Heavy focus around literacy, which is tied to Common Core standards. Where we're slipping right now is mathematics. And him and I talked about it coming in. And I think he's focused as to what he needs to do to differentiate, to create the supports that are necessary in classrooms every day. I'm of the belief that if we get kids off to a good start, one of the things the mayor has really pushed is her 3rd grade reading initiative. And what we know now is that we're able to really, with great degree of predictability, realize that if kids are not reading by 3rd grade, the outcomes are not good. The likelihood of a high school diploma is challenged. The likelihood of getting to college is challenged. So we are, I think, moving in a good direction with respect to literacy. We need to turn up math. And the way we want to do it is by integrating it into certainly the other subjects and things that I think that will actually capture their interest in things, that an interdisciplinary approach, what I would call it, in science, mathematics, and things of that nature. So there you will see changes. But I will say the gentleman who stood up a little earlier and talked a little bit about the individualization, the customization that comes when you have additional people in classrooms. We want our kids to have that type of opportunity in their classrooms. That's what we need to work on, putting more people in classrooms, bringing down the class size, individualizing the opportunity for young people. But it's a good question.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And is there another hand up after the gentleman in the, okay, I see you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Dr. Thornton as well. My name is Jeffrey Wright, and I'm a professor at Morgan State University. And what I notice is that there are a disproportionate amount of students who enter college from Baltimore City schools, so coming to Morgan and other schools as well, taking remedial courses. And that really holds them back, and it leads to, for them, a higher rate of attrition in college as well. So I really believe that one of the intentionalities of school has to be focused on the school to college pipeline, rather than what Michelle Alexander wrote about, the school to jail pipeline in her book, on Crow. I am very interested, and I would be very interested in assisting and helping to implement this type of strategy or initiative throughout the schools, elementary through high school, because I really believe that if you don't have that intentionality or consciousness, then a lot of students are just kind of left dangling out there, and there's no real redress for where they need to be and how they can be accomplished. And college, again, in my opinion, is the most efficient way of helping, in particular, young African American students to do well in life. And if schools aren't doing that, then I guess we, to a certain extent, must question their viability or true essence in our communities if we can't move them forward to college to succeed at the Vanderbilts and MITs and the Morgans as well. Thank you.
I agree that we need to spend a significant amount of time making sure that more of our young people are ready, not just attend or apply, but are ready for college. And I think, Dr. Thornton and I have some things in the works that I would transform our city as much or more than the 21st century school, the 1.1 billion, if we can make it happen. And I am committed to working with Dr. Thornton to increase the number of our kids that are going to college and that are successful in college, with the understanding that this is about making sure that our kids, no matter what zip code, are ready, cradle to career. And if it's cradle, school, trade, career, that's one track. If it's cradle, school, college career, that's another track. But we have to do a better job making sure that we're preparing our young people for life. And that's the work that we're committed to doing. So I agree. I know, I think I'm speaking for you too.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I'm going to ask if you just come forward just to look. Thank you. Great. Great. And that's good. That's good right there. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Oh, thank you. My name is Sequoia Alexander, and I'm also a member of this community, and I work with a lot of homeless families with children, and my question is, what's typically the process for students who are homeless to access homeless services? I know that several family members have been unclear as to how to access services, so any information would be helpful.
So, Ms. Alexander, what I'm going to ask is if we can get a member of my team to get your contact information. We can follow up. Through our Journey Home, our efforts to make homelessness rare and brief, we do have someone that works specifically to make sure that we're connecting families that are experiencing homelessness, connecting those children with a caseworker that makes sure that they get to school and they have consistency. They're not bouncing around from school to school, even if their housing is not stable. But in order for me to get you that specific information, we'll get your contact and follow up directly.
All right, thank you.
But
Before
can we just make sure can
Yes,
I
ma'am,
know
we
who's
have a-
going to take care of that?
Yes, ma'am, as a staff member is actually going to go and see Ms. Alexander.
And Nicole, would you
And I think,
follow up?
Nicole, did you want to?
She'll follow up with the
Okay.
individual. Yeah.
Before we come back over to that side of the room, we had a question from this side, Madam Mayor. Pastor Sean Bell, who is a strong partner in this community and certainly with the school. As a matter of fact, the principal, who's clapping, spoke highly of Pastor earlier, and I know that you guys have a grand opening of a cafe in a couple weeks. You want to have a question? I just want to give you an opportunity.
Thank you. I want to officially welcome Dr. Thornton. Welcome to Baltimore and to our great mayor tonight. I have a question. As you stated, I pastor one of the greatest churches in East Baltimore. That's Greater Paradise, a block down. Just 2 years ago, we had our worship in this facility because we were robbed and we were burned. And Dr. Presswood has done a phenomenal job here. One of the things I want to suggest tonight, we have other pastors, other faith-based organizations present. I believe what Greater Paradise has done, we have adopted this school. I believe if it's something, Madam Mayor, Dr. Thornton, we can look at for the other religious communities, nonprofits, faith-based, if we could do an initiative of adopting a school. I believe with the partnerships and bringing all the influences from our congregations, it's enough churches in this city, we could all say amen to that, that could take on these schools and really deal with the problems in our local schools. In doing so, we've seen a change here at Fort Worthington. We've seen a staff, it's a pleasant environment, and most of all, they need the help. But I believe if there's an initiative that we could do, we took on Fort Worthington, I would love to see that challenge throughout Baltimore City. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much for your leadership in this community. And one of the things I'm going to suggest and to ask Dr. Thornton, and I'm certainly willing to work, what we know is that you have a lot of partners, corporate partners that adopt schools, faith-based. I don't know if there's a template for what that means. If a church wants to adopt a school, is there a template for what that means when they accept that responsibility? So that might be something that we can work on, because a lot of people say that they want to adopt it and they're not going to do anything near what you're doing. They can't. They don't have the capacity, nor do they have the interest. So if we could I think if we can work together with and like I said, I'm certainly willing to work with you with the school system to say this is what we need. You know, this is what it means to adopt a school, and we're looking for partners. I can certainly help get the word out to people who I know or institutions that I know have the interest and the ability to be those partners that we need for our schools.
Yes, sir. Gentleman in the hat on the side, and then we'll come back to the center.
My name is Benjamin Du Bois. part of the community all over East Baltimore. One of my questions, first of all, welcome Dr. Thornton and Madam Mayor. Last year in school, they came up with the Common Core. And it appears to me that they started something that I don't think they were really prepared for, as far as equipment, as far as the teachers. And it was a lot of problems with the Common Core. I think that they didn't do a lot of testing on it because it didn't come out right. I want to know, this year starting off, where we at with Common Core? Because I know a lot of schools, in the school that I was dealing with my grandchild, they didn't even have the equipment that they need, computers and stuff, to try to do the test. And most of them was going to have to work on computers to do the test. So I want to know exactly how they're going to deal with Common Core this year.
Well, sir, Common Core, we've kind of renamed as College and Career Readiness Standards, because that's the pathway that gets us there. You are absolutely right. We actually kind of started eating the cake before it was fully baked. And as a result, what we found out, all the things you just mentioned. We opened school with principals a few weeks ago. We brought them to a Principals Institute to begin talking about rollout of the Common Core. I will tell you that our technology department has made the purchases necessary for the successful launch of Common Core. Now the work goes to classrooms. It talks about educator effectiveness, so we actually then put multidisciplinary teams together of teachers to begin to build capacity. We're weeks away, well, not weeks, we're days now. I'm thinking about weeks. We're days away for our babies will come back. They will come back to a cadre of teachers, a cadre of leaders that have been given the opportunities and training to actually take us to the next place. The good news is that I believe we're going to raise the bar. I believe that the young people that are not going into Morgan now, not prepared as you would like to see them, will be prepared, because what we've done is we've ratcheted up the rigor. Things that you and I did when we were in the 7th grade, they're going to be doing when they're in the 4th grade. And what I believe is when you begin doing things like that, when you begin to raise expectations, you're going to get to a good place. Just to piggyback on your questions about, in a few weeks, I will have every president of all the local universities in my office talking about what does it take for articulation, because it shouldn't be a secret how a youngster goes from high school into college, and when they have to go and they don't get college credit, I've wasted their time and I've wasted their money. So we're going to figure out a way in which we have good articulation between the two. But we're well on the way with Common Core. It's tough. The test scores are going to drop because the work is tougher. But at the end, I believe our kids are going to be better positioned to go after the dreams that they all have around certainly their future.
Yes, sir. The gentleman in the white shirt, you had your hand up.
My name is Russell Stewart. You know, it's amazing to listen to you educators talk your educational program. And the thing that you seem to miss most is that the children. You know, many times we have kids who haven't even eaten. Many times we've had kids who live with parents who need to be taught themselves. And you expect those children, and you expect the teacher to teach them. You know, as far as this parent is concerned, I think you people are the ones that are in the way. I think you need to get out of the way and let people who are experiencing life and have experienced life to start helping us with these children. You may not realize it, but the more I read, the more I realize how much damage we do to these kids. You people who voted for this drug program, do you know that every time a woman gets pregnant, if she's been fooling with drugs, that child is doomed. And we should be able to get to that child so that child can work. Now, we're talking about, in a sense, locking these children in their homes because we want them off the street because they aren't doing the things that we want. What about you living the child's life for about a week and see what some of them go through? I mean, I really don't know where some of you parents come from. If I had my way, I would, you know, parents don't want their
Can we,
home
can we do
anymore.
one thing? Can we
Wait-
keep
wait a
it
minute,
respectful?
wait a minute.
Because
Give me a
what you're
couple
s-
minutes,
the-
Mayor.
I've given you a couple minutes,
Fine.
and you've used it to be disrespectful to me and the parents who are here. That's not why we're here. We're here for a question, and if you have a question, I'll take it. But if it, number one, you people, number one. Number two, I don't know where you parents come from, number two. So if you could get to your question, I would appreciate it, and we're ready to
Fine,
answer.
Fine, then let me get to it. I would like to see us get a group of children and let them be the dominant individuals in a group and listen to what they have to say. And then put together the things that we know we should be able to look at.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I'm sorry. You have,
Listen,
thank you, Mr. Stewart. You have actually helped us as we move forward with concise questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
So I think it's important to recognize, and I want to thank again the members of the Youth Commission who are here, because I do think it's important to have the viewpoint of young people, and I want to thank them for being the voice of young people in Baltimore and taking that role seriously. And we have had educational forums with young people. I've had a public safety forum specifically for young people just a few months ago. So I believe it's important to be, when I talked about being in a relationship, I didn't mean just with people that are voting age. You know, we've done that with young people, and I certainly believe that it's important to hear from them. So that's about all I'll say.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also just wanted to acknowledge the number of young people who are with us tonight, just short of a full week before school officially starts. Not only that, Madam Mayor, but we have probably about a dozen people from Teach for America who are here tonight, who certainly, I believe, have invested or will be investing in our children as we move forward. We had a question on this side. Yes, sir. Want to give us your name, and you can give us your question.
Sure, good evening to everyone. My name is Del Calibizo, and a little bit of background about for me. I did 27 years in the Air Force, and presently I've lived in the city, Baltimore, Maryland, for close to half of my life. I have helped raise 3 of my children. They're all college graduates. But what I observe living in the city is that a lot of these kids, they need attention, not necessarily attention from the teachers, okay? But we need to push accountability within their homes. How are we going to address that? Okay, as you know now, we are in an internet world, and a lot of these kids are basically at home playing Nintendos, watching movies, televisions. And what I see is they need to be more proactive, meaning being outside, playing with their bikes, not necessarily riding bikes on the street, but you know, like in Sinclair Lane, I believe it would help to have some kind of track for bicycles for the kids to ride around on. They needed to be more outside, you know, and that is really lacking, not just in America, but really everywhere. So how are we going to address that?
So first, thank you for coming out this evening. I know that you were one of the community members that we encountered as we were canvassing in the neighborhood, so I do appreciate you keeping your word and coming out to the education forum. You know, I announced a few weeks ago our efforts to increase and improve recreation in the city, because I do think it's important to make sure that our young people have things to do. And yes, our young people do need attention. That's why we're here. To shine a light on the gaps that we have, the kids that are falling through the cracks, and figure out how we can better serve them. I know part of the work that I did with Dr. Thornton, I watched him and his team. They knew the young people in the community who they needed to reach out to as we were walking around. They had a specific list of people, and I don't want to steal your thunder because I know you want to talk about it, that they knew had issues that needed to be addressed, whether it was chronic absenteeism or other things. So they are aware, the principals are aware of what's going on, and they are doing, this man is committed to doing that personal outreach. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Thornton. I know your team might want to add something to that.
They probably do. Thank you, sir, for your concern. You know, it's a little bigger than the children. We're talking about redefining families and providing supports for families to be supportive of kids. Gentleman made mention that our kids don't eat. Well, you know, I'm proud that we offer lunch every day in school. I'm proud we offer breakfast every day. I'm proud that we're looking at a dinner program because we're in a time where our families are very, very stressed. I'm not making excuses for them, but the reality of it is sometimes you got a single parent trying to raise a number of young people. It's our job to begin to create the conditions for that parent to be successful so children can be successful. So as we begin this work, even with schools, you know, we talk about communities. Communities are now left with churches and schools. And that's why this program is so important in the revitalization of this community. So as we move forward, it's about us coming together as a community to have conversations like tonight to figure out what ways we can do a better job in supporting your communities. So as we move forward, sir, I do understand, but at the end of the day, I know children, I've never seen a child rise to low expectations. So as we continue to raise the expectations for our kids, we can continue to support our children, to make certain that they're healthy. The mayor's initiative with respect to homeless, to be certain that our parents are supportive and healthy, that we're helping our parents go back to work and all those kinds of things. I believe that's how you begin to see a community transformation take place. So your points are well taken.
And I do want to add, we had a very aggressive summer meals program. We incorporated a mobile meals. So we had mobile vans that were going around delivering meals to young people. We also had an expanded number of sites. And my commitment was to work in our efforts to end childhood hunger. My commitment was to increase the number of meals that were served this year. And we did that this year, making sure that more young people had the nutrition that they needed to be able to have not just fun, but to be healthy this summer.
All right. So we have a question, gentleman in the gold and navy tie, striped tie, right in front of the camera. So as soon as you stand up, if you could just step to your right, great. And then after that, there was a hand up. Yes, ma'am. In the pearl necklace. You still have a question? Okay, we'll come to you next.
Oh, okay. My name is Bilal Ali, and what I want to ask you is, what do you have in place to deal with all the behavior issues that your staff is going to be encountered? I get the Common Core curriculum and all that, but my experience has been that a lot of the distractions or the problematic behaviors that are in the classrooms, how are you going to deal with them in terms of intervention and understand the economic impact on those single parents that you just mentioned that have to take a day off of work for suspension? What interventions do you have in place to deal with that so those kids won't get pushed to the side and become the pipeline to the industrial prison complex?
I think your point's well taken, and one of our big initiatives is getting kids in school and keeping them there. And I want to thank the parents who work so hard every morning to get them there. So we're rethinking our whole approach in dealing with behavior that's not as desirable in the classrooms. We have a program called PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Supports. And what we want to try to do is to reward good behavior. As always, get out of the punitive side of punishing, but let's reward good behavior so children can be reinforced for being kind and nice and being young citizens. The other piece is around restorative justice. When youngsters make mistakes, you got to create conditions in which they can certainly redeem themselves and move forward. But a lot of the work will fall in just training of our teachers so they understand cultural competence. They understand that sometimes a youngster may have a bad moment, but doesn't mean his whole day is bad and we're going to put him out of school, he's never going to come back. So we're using some specific tools such as restorative justice, PBIS, and one that that I've seen work really well is something called youth court, when they actually get juried by their peers, not the penal system, but their peers. And their peers basically creates the opportunity for them to certainly do some community work around school. I'm trying to keep kids in school. Because what I know, once you get into the criminal justice system, sometimes it's hard to get out. And what I also know is that when these young people get ready to go to college, they don't get accepted, they get ready to get jobs, they don't get hired. So we want to move on the very proactive, preventative side with programmatic designs that certainly engage our kids, gives our teachers the tools that they need to be successful, and sometimes even removing them to alternative settings, but not giving up on them. That's the key.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Before we will come to the lady in the pearl necklace, and then the lady in the black and white. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Shirley Cuffey. As I visit various schools, they do not have full-time librarians. So my question is, do you plan to hire more librarians and see that every school has a librarian?
Ma'am, that's a very good question. Not only don't we have librarians in some schools, we don't have libraries. So, I mean, we're going to have to take it one step here at a time. I probably want to get the libraries before I get the librarians. But we're very fortunate we have a really strong philanthropic community who's said that their mission in this community is to certainly create the joy of reading, the joy of a library in every classroom. Matter of fact, I think we're cutting the ribbon on one, and I think very nearby here. Two really nearby here. I like to under-promise and over-deliver. I would never sit here and tell you they're going to be librarians, but I will tell you that's part of our direction and focus as we build our new facilities and as we renovate facilities and as we bring new dollars, hopefully, to the classroom, that every youngster gets an opportunity to be exposed to a media center. They're not even calling them, when I went to school, we called them libraries. They call them media centers, cybraries now, and all that kind of good stuff, because the world's changing. So I'm not going to lock in on libraries. I'm going to lock in on cybraries, which creates the technology side as well as the books and the whole media, because let me tell you, that's the stuff that fascinates kids. You know, I tell you, I have a granddaughter, and you know, she reads her books right on her little telephone, and when she has to buy one, she uses mine, because that way I can pay for it. But I will tell you, that captures her spirit, her energy, and she'll stay there for hours looking at that. That's the work we need to do. We're going to begin to scale up. We're going to try to scale up as fast as possible. We're going to try to leverage the community resources to do so that every kid will have access to great curriculum, rich opportunities that they wouldn't normally get if it wasn't for the library.
Yes, ma'am. Next to the gentleman, great. And then after that, a gentleman in a green shirt, second row.
Good evening, Mayor Rollins and Dr. Thornton. My name is Evangeline Armstrong Fuller, and my family has been in East Baltimore, as a matter of fact, in the home I'm in now, over 55 years. So my sisters and brothers, there were 9 of us, were educated in Baltimore City Public Schools, and all are college graduates. Now I'm to my great-grandchildren, and I have never had more concerns than I do now. I volunteered for 2 years at one of the city public schools and had the opportunity to actually see some of the daily things that went on in the schools. You mentioned about the lunches. A large percentage of the lunches were thrown away. I witnessed this. The children either did not like the lunches or they weren't prepared well. They didn't have a variety. The next thing I have is about parent participation. When school starts, there should be a letter or something sent out to each parent that a parent must be involved in their children's school. The school where I was over 400 students, and at the PTA meetings, there may have been 50 parents. So what are the other parents doing? The children, some of them come to school, you know they're hungry. I witnessed this. They're not clothed properly, but that's not their fault. It's the parents' fault. How do we get to these parents? What do we have to do to make the parents realize that these children, they're our future? If they're not educated, what do we do? What do we have? We talk about segregation, we talk about integration, but if you can't read and you cannot write, you are not going to survive. Common Core sounds, those words sound good. I saw it at the school. My grandson was in the 4th grade. Common Core, everything else was cut. No English, no science, nothing. Everything was Common Core, Common Core, Common Core. He would come home and say, Nana, that's all we're doing, it's Common Core. When are we going to read some books? When are we going to learn some science? And I see you're right back on Common Core.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Armstrong Fuller.
Ma'am, several of the points you made are very much on target, and you said so much. So let's talk a little bit about Common Core. Common Core is no more than a vernacular that we use to explain what we want kids to know and be able to do, and it cuts across all subjects. It's certainly in math, it's certainly in science, it's certainly in social studies, and certainly in literature. So there's something not clicking at that particular school. I'd love to talk with you afterwards to figure out what we can actually do to support your youngster in that school. The thing that alarms me most is the same thing that you're concerned about. It keeps me up at night. How do I get parents engaged in a meaningful way? Certainly, we have the dinners. I know there's been a number of opportunities where we invite parents in, and we have the plays, and typically they always come out to see their children in activities, and then sometimes they fall off. I'm not here to blame. I want to figure out collectively what we can do to not only get them engaged, but keep them engaged, because this is what I know. When parents are deeply engaged, there's a higher likelihood that their children will be more successful. You're absolutely right. So I stand to learn from you in the community. I stand to try to figure out ways in which we can reach out and do a better job. This is something we got to do a better job. And we talked about the churches. We need the churches in the school. We talked about our politicians. We need them in the school. See, I believe all this comes together to make a community to get to a better place. So I'll be really interested in your thoughts. No, it's not because we haven't extended an invitation. No, it's not because I didn't put a robocall to every school kid in the school district, 85,000 kids today. No, it's not because we are not listening to student voice. It's, sometimes I don't want to make judgment. Life is tough, and I'm not excusing it, but it's just what it is. And I know a lot of parents that I meet are very well intended, and they love their kids. But I'm going to tell you, you can be a highly effective parent not stepping in the schoolhouse. You can be a highly effective parent when you get home, when the child gets home and there's something good in the house to eat, and the child sits down and does his homework, and they go to bed at a certain hour. I mean, that's highly effective parenting to me when you have clothes to wear. My parents were not in schoolhouses every day, but I had a lot of parent involvement in my life. We got to create that culture in our community, and we got to figure out ways in which our parents can certainly engage at that level.
And as we go to the next question, I will say some of it, we can send the letter out, just like Dr. Thornton said, do the robocall. I think that assumes a certain level of understanding about the importance of education. It also assumes a certain level of history with the school system. And what I've found in my experience, I spent almost 10 years as a public defender down in South Baltimore, and when I had to, some of my clients were being charged with their truancy. The kids hadn't been going to school, and they were in court. And you see that some parents, despite their best efforts, couldn't quite put it together to get their kids in school. Some didn't value education at all. Why? Because their parents and their grandparents didn't value education. So, they're reliving what they saw and what they learned. So it's more than just sending a letter. And I think Dr. Thornton has it right. We have to, meet these parents where they are and figure out, and he said it right as well, it's not a blame game, how to work in partnership and say, how can we work with you to help you help your child? And taking it from that place, instead of what I think is easy to do, which is to blame them and assume that they know better or can do better when we don't know that to be the fact. Sometimes it's going to take that village, and I'm glad that we have some of our faith-based partners here, because sometimes it takes everyone to stand in that gap and to model and to instruct parents on how to be present in the educational lives of their kids. Not everybody saw it at home.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Miles McSterling. And Mr. Stewart, I heard your heart with what you were saying. I could hear your heart. It may not have been articulated the way you wanted it to come out, but I could hear your heart and also hear this lady, what she's saying. And that's one of the things I'd like to speak of, is that, how many parents of students for this school are in the audience? Can I see a show of hand? How many parents? That is the problem. The problem is that in order for us to affect positive change within our community and within our schools, we have to get those who are responsible for the students to be a part of this. And that's going to take some creative thinking. That's going to take some out-of-the-box thinking from all of us that are here, the ones that are concerned, to figure out what can we do to help these parents that are in this community. Because one of the things we're missing today is community. When I was in school, when Dr. Thornton, when you were in school, I assume we're probably in the same great group, there was community. I could go 2 blocks in any direction in my neighborhood, and I could name everybody in every house. Everybody in every house. And in most cases, there were a Mr. and a Mrs. and children in each of those houses. Contrary to the lie that has been told that there are no men in black homes. Now, I will grant it today, that is a big issue, but that is across the board. For the last 32 years, I've worked in Nashville, Tennessee. I had the pleasure of working in 2 different private schools, and I saw close up what goes on, what makes a great school and what makes great education from the inside. Now, I did not have a lot to do with a lot of it in the first school. In the second school, I had a bigger role. But I will say this. I will say that one of the greatest things that happened in that school, in those schools, was parent participation. The parents were always there. So what we have to do, and I challenge each of you that are here tonight, we have to figure out some creative ways to get the parents in this community to come to this school so that we can create a new paradigm. We can say, it can happen, it can be great. This could be a great school. This school that we're in right now can be one of the greatest schools in the country if we can figure that out. It's called what we used to call self-help. And that's what we got to get back to, self-help. I appreciate your question. That was exactly what I'm talking about.
All right. By the way, by a show of hands, how many are here on behalf of a child or student that's a student in a Baltimore City public school? Raise your hand. Thank you. Because Fort Worthington happens to be the venue, but the purpose of all of us here tonight is about all the kids that are in our city schools. Just an FYI, just a side note. I saw a hand up on, you know what, ma'am? Yes, you had your hand up, and then we'll come over to the gentleman in the army green. Yes, sir.
Hi. We'll switch around. We'll do a dance. My name is Amy Wilson, and 22 years ago this month, I walked through this door at Fort Worthington, and I taught here for 5 years, 3rd grade and 5th grade, and it was still the fabulous Fort Worthington back then. And so my question is about teachers, and I'm going to do the same thing. How many people in the audience are a Baltimore City public school teacher? Raise your hand. Okay. And that is also a little disheartening to me, to think about our teachers not feeling like they're part of a community, to come to a community forum and to think about like what we can do about that. My question is, I feel like teacher morale right now is fairly low from what I know of the people that I talk to, coming off of some things with an evaluation last spring, coming off with the pressures of the PARCC test and new curricula. So I would just love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing related to teacher morale, which is directly related to teacher retention. And there's been things in the news about there not being enough teachers for our kids, which is terrible. And part of that is getting people to come, but part of it is getting them to stay and want to continue to work with these amazing kids. So I'd love to hear more about that morale issue and how moving forward teachers are going to feel supported in this really tough work that they do with kids.
Ma'am, truly, it's probably the toughest work anybody does in America is in our classrooms, and I certainly salute you for 22 years. That's 25?
Oh, 5.
I said you look great for 22 years in the business, I tell you. But it's 5 years here? Are you Teach for America? 22, okay, all right, 5 years. Regardless, if we're gonna win in America's classrooms. And the way you win is certainly by creating the conditions in those classrooms for young people or anyone who is brave enough and has enough courage and energy and has the drive to change outcomes for kids walks into the classroom. Done a couple of things so far, and I want you to give me a little time here because I got about 28 days on the job here. We're not going to get there yet, but I got up one morning, I went to Atlantic City, and I talked to a group of teachers, your colleagues, and we talked about ways in which we can make life better in classrooms. And they gave me a number of ways in which things that they could do and we could do differently to begin to change the outcomes for young people. And as a result of that, that's led to a teacher advisory group to begin talking about not just a one-time, because we do one-times real well. I mean, some folk are, and I'm truly honest, that some folks probably won't step foot back in this school again, doctor. But they're here tonight, so we can't do one-times anymore. I'm hoping tonight that your commitment to the school and the community won't just stop at this event coming out to see the mayor. But I wanted to create a way in which we could create a dialogue with our teachers to talk about the very issues that you have spoken about. And the only way I know how to deal with that is just to hit it head on, to begin to find out what are the challenges, and then me personally getting in the classroom. Now, I'm a teacher too, and I will tell you, it's probably harder now than it's ever been. But I will also say the expectations are high too. It's not for everybody. Everyone says, I want to go in the classroom and teach. Well, it's not for everybody. At the end of the day, we're moving to a really heavy results-oriented community. So as we move forward, I think if we empower teachers, if we give them the skills that are necessary, I think one thing you should be very proud of, you have one of the best contracts in the entire state of Maryland. You have one of the best work days, and hopefully, as I look at newscasts in the morning, I see people leaving the profession. For those reasons, we have put those things aside. Now I need the teachers to step up for my kids. I need to see the results of all those hard work and all the contracts and things of that nature. But I believe the ongoing conversation will do it. I believe that the training that we're doing with our new administrators to facilitate, because I think they're partners in this, will certainly create a better conditions that people will want to be teachers. When I grew up, I wanted to be a teacher. That's all I wanted to do. Because, I had a couple of teachers who really cared about me, and I wanted to go back and provide those same types of supports that was provided to me. So we should talk afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Thornton and Madam Mayor. My name is Alvin Barksdale. I'm a neighborhood. I live in this community, Berea. I've been here for about 2 years, but I've been in Baltimore all my life. And one of the factors that I see that and I just want to make a suggestion, because I want to be simplistic about his question about merging and finding. In between home and school, one of the first staff members of the system in the school system is the crossing guard. And the crossing guard plays a very significant role in the authority and how the students follow directions in school. Because I remember when I was in school, I had to get across the street. And I was just like all other ones. I wanted to cross before the crossing guard told me not to. But I realized the ones that didn't listen to the crossing guard, they the ones that ended up in detention. They was the ones that got in trouble a lot. So my suggestion is that I think we need to empower the crossing guards to be at panels like this, because they're the ones that connect to the parents at home. They're the ones that out there in the wintertime, in the rain, that see which parents are bringing the children to school who are dressed warm, who got hats and clothes on, who are taking care of them properly, and who can be accountable to the parents in the neighborhood who are actually really consistent. So I think they just need maybe a little pay raise and a little more authority. I'm just thinking this because for real, they play a real crucial role. I mean, before you meet the principal and the teachers, the crossing guard is she's the person that they're going to see before they get to school, and the crossing road before they get back home. So that was my suggestion. My other question was, how could we, or what do you have in plan for nutrition for in the school system, and also social work programs for children who have parents with substance abuse problems and mental health issues?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
To your point about involving I'm going to skip over the raise and all that stuff, but to your point about, that's sometimes I get to delegate, and I don't negotiate their salaries, so I get to delegate that, to pass that off to Dr. Thornton. But to your point about involving the crossing guards, I think you're right. It takes a village, and the crossing guards are part of that village. I think reaching out to them is important, and I hope the principal and the teachers here will use them as a resource, because all of us having eyes on our kids will help us make sure that some of them don't fall through the cracks. Because that same child that walked to school without adequate clothing on are the same ones that we're seeing out on the streets in the middle of the night because nobody's caring for them. And sometimes we talk about the parents doing the best they can. Sometimes it's kids doing the best that they can. So to your point, I think it is the right thing to do, to reach out to them, and I'll certainly, as we continue to move forward, make sure that we're reaching out to, I know that the school police are here and they're very helpful, but to make sure that we're notifying the crossing guards as well.
Sir, you're the first one to mention crossing guards since I've been in Baltimore, and I want you to know that. That's something to think about. But I think it's bigger than it's about community. I think this young brother said when he was growing up that, community wrapped their arms around the children, and they ensured that safe passage, whether it's going to and from school. That's what it was about. You learn to depend on those individuals. So I'll think about this crossing guard thing. That sounds pretty good. But let me go to your healthy piece. See, not only do I want kids to have healthy minds, I want them to have healthy bodies. So one of the things I'm really proud that City Schools has made a major subscription in is healthy snacks. It's very common if you were to go in one of our classrooms mid-morning. When I went to school, we used to have I got ready to say coffee. We got ready to use that. We didn't have coffee. Even though we were city, we didn't have coffee. But we had cookies, we had milk and all that. We're going to carrots and sprouts and all those things to make healthy. When I was with a group of kids late last year before taking the job, they said they wanted salad bars. I'm pleased to say that salad bars are happening. We're trying to change the paradigm of what kids eat, because what we know is that a healthy body makes a healthy mind, and as a result of that, we think we've taken some steps. And then we're trying to hopefully create some cooking classes, because I believe that if those habits carry over at home, you'll see a better result. Many of us came during the time when you just eat. I remember growing up and my grandparents just eat. And I was growing up, I was about 175 pounds. I was only about 10 years old, and it's not healthy. So we got to begin now to think about ways in which we can begin to help parents make healthier choices at home. So your points are dead on, but we'll take a look at the crossing guard. I hadn't thought about that one.
All right, we have another question. By the way, according to my clock, I have 8:26. We have time for about 2 questions, and then we will pass it over to the mayor for closing remarks and a presentation. Yes, sir. By the way, while we prepare to take this question, Mr. Barksdale, I had a crossing guard in West Baltimore growing up. Her name was Miss Barksdale. And she definitely kept my brother and I in check, so I like that suggestion. Yes, sir. Name
Good afternoon.
and...
Madam Mayor, Dr. Thornton, my name is Samuel Davis, Jr. I am from this neighborhood for 27 years. I live right down on Milton and Oliver Street. My 4 oldest kids went to this school and the school before. And I'm sitting here and I'm agreeing with this gentleman back here in the multicolored tie. I'm hearing everything about bullying. I've been a volunteer in the public school for the past 7 years. Bullying is seen to be pushed up under the rug. Nobody speaks about it. I see it. Number 2 is security of the schools. If we want our children to progress, we have to put them in an environment where they can progress. And they're not being in an environment where they can reach their full potential with bullying, security. We was in a school, we at the front door saying you can't come in unless you come by here. Someone letting them in through the back. We're in a school where the doors doesn't work. Kids are in danger of somebody walking off the street. So what are you guys doing, or what are you going to put on the drawing board about security and bullying? That's what and I'm here with a couple of people that we were the same school for a couple of years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. You know, I'm proud to say tonight that we have, I think, one of the best security teams in the state, and it's actually led by that gentleman back there in the white shirt, Chief Goodwin, and supported by Sergeant Coleman. We've taken a different tack of trying to create conditions for kids to be successful and to support kids, and we've gotten away from the policing and more into the supporting work. You know, there have been bullies all the time. When I grew up, there were bullies. When you grew up, there were bullies, and folks that took advantage of others. We take it very seriously, to the point that, you know, we were suspending probably more kids than we need. And as a result of that, now we're trying to figure out restorative justice ways in which we can certainly change their behavior not to want to hurt one another, because those are the things that get our children in trouble, and sometimes those conversations go too far. So as we move forward, I think you'll be very pleased that if you go around this school, I just went out one of the doors and couldn't get back in. I know the doors are working. We got to, so at the end of the day, your points are well taken, but I think if you were willing to invest a little time, I think you'd be very pleased with where we're heading and where we're going. Because at the end of the day, nothing's more important to me. You talk about Common Core, that's second. What's first and foremost in my mind is the safety of your young people. And to be certain that when mom sends and dad sends them, and uncles and aunts send them to school, I'm going to send them back the same way they came, healthy in one piece. So as we move forward, we are taking those things very, very seriously. You know, I'm pleased to say that in Baltimore City Schools, and I'm going to get a lot of complaints, when you walk in, we're going to ask to see your driver's license. And you're going to get a little slip to go on your, you know, I've already had this, folks say, what are you doing this for? We're going to ask you to take out your driver's license, run it through a scanner. I want to be certain everything's good, because if you're going to move through schools, I got to be certain that you're the right individual moving through schools. And I'm apologizing to you and anyone else, but at the end of the day, safety is foremost for us. So this new initiative we think we're unveiling, is actually, we've unveiled it at central office now. I think will go a long ways in helping parents feel a little comfort that there are things in place from a top-notch security team, one of the best I think in the state, to our security messages, to our code reds, our practice drills, all those things to certainly keep kids safe and ready to learn. But thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you, sir. We have a question, young lady to my right. And before you ask your question, just want to acknowledge a young man who's also an advocate in this community. I saw him earlier, Mr. Corey McCray, who recently, yes, you can give him a round of applause, candidate for delegate for this district, dynamite young man and advocate in this community. Yes, ma'am. Name and question.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Taylor Stewart, and thank you so much for tonight. My question is kind of a twofold piece. Since 2007, we've turned over about 90% of our principals in Baltimore City Public Schools. So I'd love to hear first, how are you thinking about the process of attracting but also retaining and supporting the principals that we actually have here? And then the next piece of that.
Well, let's do one at a time.
Okay.
I can't remember a whole bunch of them at one time. Let's do one at a time. We've turned over 180 principals in 60 months. So that kind of equates to the number that you have. That's a major problem, because one of the things that I believe is stabilizing the community is the principal. And I think you're into your, how many years here? 5th year. That's dependability. People know, little kids growing up, 3 years old, will know that they're coming to this school and Doc is going to be their principal. So we got to work on that. And what I've attempted to do is by re-engaging principals as part of, as a solution to where we need to go and how we want to get there. Started this year with the Principals Institute. I brought all 177 together. We sat down, we worked the entire week together trying to create a culture that we think is conducive to certainly an environment that they can have an opportunity to lead. So that's one thing. And then we're going to recruit. I mean, you know, I love to get folk in Baltimore, because what I know, when I get folks locally, they don't leave. When I bring folks from all over the country, they spend a couple years with me and gone. So we're going to certainly have an effort internally to actually grow our own principals. And we have something going now. We want to make it a little more robust. Can you imagine this young lady? I know it's not 22 years, but imagine her spending a few years in the classroom, doing really some great work, then basically going into a principal apprenticeship program, moving up to an assistant principal, then on the principal. She has roots here. She has a family here. She's not going to get up and leave. That's the kind of work that we want to do, and that's the pipeline that I'm trying to create and move forward.
Very excited about the pipeline program. So
All right.
working with Teach for Americans, so know a little bit about this. Then the other one is kind of, as we create like that leadership and that pipeline, how are we making sure that those principals and then their schools are also a part of kind of creating your vision from like the top line of where's Baltimore going to be in 10 years down to like each year's budget to make sure that central office is really responding to kind of the needs of those principals so that they do stay.
Well, as I shared earlier, we began that conversation a couple of weeks ago. You know, it's very important that I hear from truly principals on a regular basis. We've instituted a monthly institute in which we keep conversations moving. And then what I've said to the union group, our union members, is that I wanted to bring together an advisory group of principals to begin that conversation and allow that conversation to be ongoing. The budget process is pretty important to me, because some of the issues that came up tonight was around money. I mean, we have more wants than we have resources. So prioritizing, I think someone said we need libraries in every school. They're absolutely right. Beginning a conversation, because I got to get to a place, no matter where kids land in this system, whether it's this community or a community across town, that they have a quality education. It can't be random. We have great kids, but some of our schools are not as effective as I want them to be. And the only way I know how to do it is having those courageous conversations with principals, being very direct. We laid out our test scores, we laid out our expectations, we listened to those folks, and I think we're well on the way of doing some good things. But thank you for bringing those big questions to the table.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, now we would like to give you an opportunity to give closing remarks and at the same time an opportunity to present the principal with a citation. So you probably could. And Dr. Thornton, if you could come up and join Madam Mayor.
Again, thank you so much for coming out this evening. I certainly appreciate your willingness to be in conversation with us about how we can work together to do the best that we can for our kids all over the community. So please give yourselves a hand. I'm just so grateful for all of you coming out. I know that there were a few hands that had questions that didn't go up. Gus, did they have the ability to write their questions on the survey form? So if you still have your survey form, if you give us your contact information, we'll work to get you an answer to the questions that, I know there were a handful that didn't get, questions that didn't get answered. So I have this certificate because, as I said to you in my opening, Principal, I am grateful that you see yourself as a leader, not just in the classroom and in the school, but in the community. So I have the certificate of recognition on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore. I'm pleased to present this certificate to Fort Worthington Elementary School in recognition of your hosting the Community Forum on Education as mayor, and personally, I wish to express my appreciation to Principal Dr. Donald Presswood and the Fort Worthington staff for your humble hospitality, exceptional dedication to the children of Baltimore. I've signed this certificate in your honor. Thank you so very much.
Proud of you, man. Let's put you in the picture.